So some of you have been interested in these different mods that I do. You have a lot of questions about them. You want me to do 3D printed parts for you. And I don't do that. And there's several reasons. First of all, I don't think I'm a 3D printing expert, but also every one of these things, all these mods that I do, these kits that I'm printing, these pieces I'm printing are made for airsoft guns, almost every one, and none of them fits perfectly. So it's nothing that I can just print and send to you. It's something that you have to print, you have to then manually fabricate by sanding or cutting to make it fit. So I'm going to try to do some more videos where I kind of show that process more in depth and the whole breaking down the blaster in depth and show you kind of all the different steps involved. So here we have a GShotoy's HK416 that I'm going to go ahead and customize with what's kind of referred to as like a Strikeface kit or a bolter Strikeface kit. So I found one on Thingiverse. I'm going to try to do a better job making sure I post that links to the different STLs in the description as well. But all the files are usually free. You just need to be able to print them. So if you don't have a 3D printer, you got to find someone who does, or you're going to have to go ahead and pay a service to do them. So when it comes to breaking down the blaster, though, the first thing, it's very easy to get this one, the barrel off of this one. All you need is a large Allen wrench for this. So just make sure you have a set of metric Allen wrenches, right? And then a screwdriver is usually all you need to break down any of these. So you're just going to loosen that completely. I've already done it. And then this piece will come off, right? So that way you'll get your front barrel off, which we needed to do. Now there's this here. This is actually threaded on. So I already, again, went ahead and unthreaded it and took this piece off. And then same with this piece. Actually, I'm going to end up reusing this piece for the build. I just needed to flip it around. So that's where that's going to end up going when I build it. Of course, to take the stock off, you're just going to go ahead and extend it all the way. It just should turn and slide off. So that's kind of the first part of breaking this down. Now I will break down the gun more, and I'll show you some pictures of that later because I do want to paint this spot. The nice thing with a lot of these M4 variations, that type of blaster, is the grip itself is a separate piece. And it's always best, I think, if we don't paint that. So it's always nice to be able to remove that, not paint it, but then we'll take everything else apart and we'll be able to paint it so that it all looks really nice. So with this kit, we're not going to use a stock at all. So again, the pieces that come with it are not going to work with this blaster. So I had this piece I had printed before. I had to kind of hollow it out a little more. And then this would just slide through here. That'll fit on there. I'll probably put a very small screw and small hole through the top that'll fit down in there. And then likely to cover this hole, I'll actually print a little circle of my logo and glue that over that top there, just because I think that'll look cool. These wires are going to get moved and rewired up out the front because that's how this kit is going to work. So looking at the pieces that come with the kit, basically there's this main piece. You can see I've already started to paint them. And there's this piece. And these are going to essentially slide onto the front right here, right? And go right up against there. So that is how this little kit's going to end up working. But I wanted to do a couple different things to it. Your battery is going to end up being in here. This piece will just slide off and on here, and that's where your battery will go. So the wires can get rewired through here, pushed down through here into this battery compartment in here. All right. So a couple things I had to do. Obviously, you end up doing a lot of sanding. This comes in really handy if you have one of those. I also have a belt sander machine, files. You do use a lot of files, chisels even, and of course sandpaper in general. So I'm still going to have to do some of that. The other thing I found is when you print with 3D printers, there's a lot of times imperfections in the prints, unless you're an expert at it, and then that's a whole hobby in itself. So I found this type of spray paint that actually has some texture to it, and luckily I've been able to find it on sale really cheap. Works as a great primer because it puts a little texture on there, and then it also helps kind of fill some gaps as well. But I do end up using filler. I do end up using 3D pens to fill large voids if I need to. So one thing I had to do with this too is this had a rail printed on top, but that rail did not line up properly with this rail. So I had to sand that down completely off, and then I took the rail off of this barrel that matches. I cut that to fit on top because it's the exact right height. So now when we put this on, you'll see later, these two rails match up perfectly like they should. So that's another thing like that just is, completely different because this was made for an airsoft gun that has some slightly different specs. The other thing I plan on doing is just to add stability. So these are pieces that are glued together. So I do use a lot of different glues, super glues like this, clamps to clamp things. I have a vise with, soft jaws that you can use to clamp things to get them, back together. Because again, depending on the size of your printer, you may or may not be able to print some of these large ones. But I wanted to put some rails on the side. So I had some rails I had printed that'll be mounted like here. You can see I've started priming some so that you'll be able to do some sort of accessories on the side. And then I wanted to do a rail on the bottom so that you could do a grip on the bottom up in the front here. So that's what I have going on with these, or that's what I plan on doing with these. And also, of course, it is going to add stability to this piece since this is two pieces that are glued together. So again, those are all just different modifications that I've decided to do on my own. They aren't part of the kit, and I end up doing that a lot. So there will be kind of a texturized little Strikeface kit that goes over the front here. And the other thing I liked, and I thought would look cool, was to do a cool rail riser that's angled forward that goes all the way along the whole distance from, the back to the front of this. So I'm currently printing that. And again, that's just something that I've, another free file I found online that I thought would look really cool, add a lot to it. And again, also just help stabilize everything and make everything stronger and better overall. So those are kind of the build plans that I plan. Again, I'll do more videos as I go through this process, the different steps I take. Like when we take this apart, I'll make sure to show you guys the inside of that HK416 from GShotoys so that you can see what it looks like. Again, we'll rewire this to come out up front here, which really should just involve splicing some longer wires on. That should be pretty easy. And, other than that, it's just some sanding and painting of the different and gluing of different 3D parts. So hopefully you guys enjoy these videos. You'll kind of see my process from the beginning to the end is kind of my intention. And, I'll try to make sure that I do all the steps along the way. All right, so stay tuned for the next part. All right, since I was taking this apart, I thought I'd kind of go over what I did here. It's a little different. So first off, I took the handle off. That was easy. We're just talking Allen wrenches and a couple screws, right? So then I just put them right back with that handle because I'm not going to paint that anyway. So that part was easy. And then you do need to remove the screw from the mag release button and then pull that piece out on each side. And then there's a couple other screws, and there's this one that there's this piece right here, and that screws over on this side. That actually is another Allen wrench one, like this. So just kind of look for everything that you need to disconnect. Now you will notice that I've taken it apart already. So your magazine is right here, right? And this is where your power connections for your magazine connect. And so now they're kind of out of whack here, but basically I put a blue dot on this one, and then I marked this spot so that I know that that's where that one goes. So make sure you do something like that when you're taking these apart, because you could put it all back together, and if you have these reversed, then your magazine's not going to work or power up. So basically you remove this piece off, kind of down and off, and then you're able to slide this piece out. Now I'm going to be able to reach in here now and unscrew a couple screws up here to be able to take this top rail off and then to be able to take the charge handle off, which is what I'm going to need to do in order to paint that. So it's actually going to come apart in another basically 2 pieces, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do that, but I wanted to show you this quick just to show you how I got to that point, because it is a little different than some of the other M4 variants that are out there. So actually it was easiest just to pop this piece off completely. You just had to pull the rest of that piece out. So I just popped this piece off completely. So we've got these 2 pieces right here. Those are fine. And then now you can go ahead and you can see inside here, and I'll be able to go in there and unscrew those. So it's going to come apart in a couple more pieces. This is going to come apart in 2 pieces, plus you'll have a rail piece, plus you'll likely have a charging handle piece that'll be separate. You can see right here, I was wondering how the charging handle was connected. There's a little button right here. So when you pull back, it just pulls on that button. That's what's sending the electrical signal telling the magazine to turn on and priming the magazine. So I wasn't sure if it was going to be wired directly into the charging handle or exactly how that was going to be. So there you go. I'll finish breaking this down. That'll pretty much be it for any of the breakdown videos, and then I can go ahead and get that stuff all ready to paint. The only things I'm going to leave probably unpainted are the handle, and then as long as this charging handle can come out completely, which it should be able to, I'm going to leave that unpainted as well. Just again, anytime you can leave areas unpainted that it get touched a lot, it just ends up, I think, working out better in the long run.